happening, everyone? For only the fourth time this week, we are live. We're live. We'll make it a fifth time tomorrow. Crypto Coffee's coming on the show. But today we have Corey Costa, Crypto Coins is his channel. Shout out to YouTube channels out there. That's how things work these days. You have a message, you have a movement, you have a something you want to get out there, and you create a channel. And you talk about it. That's how we all got started. I have a feeling. Anyways, everyone, we've had some great streams this week. I'm excited. Have Corey talk about a few different topics here around the community, around Richard, around all the fun stuff we've been going through. Do you go through fun stuff, or do you enjoy fun stuff? Is that like a telltale sign when you say it like that? That it's been more fun than usual lately. So yeah, we've had some pretty fun green room banter. Yeah, can't even think for a second. I've been running around all day, but I definitely was excited for this stream. At the last moment, I was like, okay, got to get stuff together, got to get the thumbnail finished. YouTube doesn't want to upload it half the time. It just doesn't work half the time. So finally got all that straightened out, got everyone tagged, and looking at the chat, talk to the chat real quick before we bring Corey in. Got a lot of cool stuff to talk about. Like I said, Red Squirrel, you're number one to the chat most of the time. You and Godfather J6, I got to say, and UFO every once in a while too. Appreciate the algo thumbs up there if you're tuning in. Good to have you. Otherwise, appreciate you as well. At Wild SJ, I was listening to you earlier and actually interacting with you on the stream. It's always funny when you're talking through the chat on the stream, and you're kind of having this conversation back and forth. It's always fun to do that, especially with people who are making such a difference in the community and really one of the true believers out there. So shout out to Wild SJ. She does a lot of great work. Scivive and 5555 is part of the show. We're not ending yet. No, that's not the cue. We're not ending yet. That's what I usually say. Corey Costa's here in the background. Moondog's here. I think I saw Moondog on SJ stream as well. So glad you come on over. And it's going to be a good show. Very excited to bring my guest in for only probably 10th time or so he's been on the show. Always bringing the heat, bringing the muscles, bringing the perspective. Corey Costa, welcome back to the show.
What's up, man? While I was in the green room, I was using
you got a shake weight
gun. No, I spent like $250 on this because I screwed up my chest. So I'm glad you gave me a little time to use it. What's going on, everybody? How's everything?
Good. I'm glad you get those things in order. I mean, the name of the show is The Man Who Called the Tank Top. So
I did.
I saw BitBoy. Didn't BitBoy wear a tank top on your show the other day?
He did every single time, man. 3 times a show on both.
And
I'm not even exercising today. It's just a custom thing now. I just wear tank tops, and it's not even hot out today. It's like 70 degrees and it's raining, but it's humid. So
some have called you the Whisperer of Charles. When do you think Mr. Hodgkinson will wear a tank top on one of your interviews?
The Whisperer of Charles. Do I think he will ever wear a tank top? No. Charles always wears like the nicest of clothing. He comes professional, and like
founder like.
I say 70-80% of my interviews I wear tank tops. Sometimes I'll decide to wear a shirt and it's not well ironed, but I do what I can.
The Whisperer of Charles sounds like an official title in Britain of some sort. Whisperer of Charles. Yeah.
I'm excited. I'm surprised I haven't been knighted yet.
He may knight you eventually. I mean, he's pretty legit guy. So you never know. He could have that power one day.
Yeah, it's a very interesting stream. He's a really I love Charles Hodgkinson. I think he's a really good guy. I think that he's very humble. I think that there's a lot of synchronicity from the old cypherpunk era and him. I think he's one of the last that actually conveys that. And he makes time for me when he's got 1 million followers and a billionaire. So all I can really say, is, humbly, the fact that he even makes time for such a humble Twitter, humble YouTube channel is kind of like, it's very kind of him. So,
Yeah, he's definitely one of the leaders and one of the thinkers in the broader crypto ecosystem and putting in the work, man. A lot of these people, I come from Bitcoin too, not just investing, but believing in the ideals that it stands for, and a lot of the free crypto we see out there too.
Yep.
So glad to see him interacting with the community, coming on your show, giving you a conversation as well, and you all getting some fascinating stuff. If anyone hasn't seen those interviews, especially if any big founder out there. Richard's got 1,000 interviews out there already, but if you're interested in hearing perspective and from other communities and other things that people are working on, a lot of good stuff out there. Of course, Charles Hodgkinson, Vitalik, a lot of the shows and a lot of the events and stuff they do really give you some insight on what's going on in crypto, broadly speaking, if you're interested.
Yes. Thank you.
No. Speaking for Rich, I'm gonna bring Richard's Twitter up here in a minute too. But I want to ask you, what? Let me bring it up first because I want to frame it in this question as well, because I think it's worth talking about as far as.
Yeah, do your thing, man.
He went on a tweet storm recently. Our friend Somi covered it as well, and it really just kind of, to me, it really makes me think of him just talking about. Well, shoot, let me
take your time, bro. Hammer.
Again, yeah.
Oh wow, you're able to show stuff without logging in on Twitter. I didn't know you could do that.
I think this is like an old cache. Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, smart man. There we go.
Un momento, por favor. We'll get back to this, but all right, Corey, maybe just say hi to the chat before we get into the major stuff. Say hi to yourself real quick. Corey Costa Cryptocoin says, "Yo."
Yeah, I said hi.
Luke Pulsewalker, nice one there. Appreciate it. Hey, share the stream if you want other people to get on here. I know it started a little bit late as far as getting the message out, but I'm sure it'll fill up in a few minutes as well.
Hey guys, make sure to share the stream. Don't be wiener schnitzels.
I was may have had a wiener. I may have had some schnitzel recently, and while it tastes good, you don't want to be that kind of thing, though. That's true. All right, I will be ready very, very soon. 30 seconds here.
I mean, I also have them. I could read them out loud too, if it's an issue.
Yeah, just read one real quick, and then we'll.
Sure. So let's read. Let's go to Richard Aorta. Hart. Let's go.
Oh, actually, I got it now.
You got it? Okay.
Yeah, I'm good. 10 seconds, and we will be back in business.
Cool. All right. I figured cool.
Thank you, everyone. There's people in there sharing, and promoting the message, which will come from the tops of Corey's peaks of those mountains he's got sitting side by side from his head. Wow, very good stuff. What do you think? Especially all the stuff that he's talked about. He's talked about a lot of legal arguments and free speech and publishing and stuff like that. What is Richard fighting for, Corey?
I think Richard is fighting for a precedent in cryptocurrency of freedom to transact and freedom to financial privacy. You see this, and I made a video about this a couple of weeks ago that I'm not sure if Richard or one of his legal representatives are the ones that are tweeting on his behalf. But there's a lot of assumption that I can make here that a lot of tweets he's making right now are pleading the case that he's fighting for. Which is decentralization, which is financial autonomy, which is the ability to transact on networks that you can agree with or disagree with, or you can transact on networks and build even if we disagree with what's being built on it. It's the freedom of speech. I think he's fighting for the Ninth Amendment, which a lot of people tend to forget what the Ninth Amendment actually means. And I've made a tweet about this. The Ninth Amendment basically conveys rights enumerated in the Constitution. So basically, let me go to my tweet here. Let me actually find it. Where is it? The right to financial privacy is elusively also highlighted in Amendment 9. Rights enumerated in the Constitution shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So basically what it's highlighting in Amendment 9 is that the federal government, the state government, or local government cannot utilize cannot change the rights of the people on the basis of their own sense of interpretation. So basically they cannot take away privacy. They cannot take away. This is actually one of the reasons behind abortion was the Ninth Amendment, was the idea that rights enumerated in the Constitution shall not be construed to deny or disparage others retained by the people. So right to privacy, right to autonomy, right to transact, right to freedom of speech. These are all things that are highlighted in the Ninth Amendment, and they're not technically highlighted in the Ninth Amendment. But if you look at the Ninth Amendment from the way that it's worded, it's supposed to be utilized to prevent new rights that were enshrined in the Constitution that are conveyed in different ways in the future, because the founding fathers knew this, would happen in the future was different than when they were born and grew up, that there would be new types of rights that were enshrined in the Constitution that were conveyed differently in modern society. And I think that what Richard's trying to fight for is those type of new autonomous rights that we see. And I think what's unfortunate here is that there's a lot of overarching encroachment with three-letter agencies in cryptocurrency. Richard Hart's being attacked. You see other cryptocurrencies being labeled as securities when some of their sales weren't even in America. And a lot of this, I think what also Richard's doing is fighting to keep the blockchain industry within the United States, because the United States right now has a lot of adversarial issues right now. You have BRICS right now that's growing. You have Argentina, you have Egypt, you have Saudi Arabia, and you have Ethiopia, and I believe another country that I don't remember, all joined, all conveyed that they were joining BRICS. Now, BRICS is going to, right now, as it stands with all these economies, is about 30% of 30% of the world's GDP. That's a lot. That's a financial empire right there that's being born. And one of the main issues that BRICS is saying and conveying is to settle debts in national currencies, not the dollar. As a result of that, you would think that industries like cryptocurrency that could bring power, influence, and authority back to the United States would be embraced. But as a result of this overarching encroachment, what it's doing is basically bringing cryptocurrency into the hands of our adversaries. And I think that Richard Hart, though not conveying that particular argument, indirectly what is being fought for on his behalf is the idea that the Constitution conveyed in the United States. And as a result of that, the United States should be enshrining cryptocurrency. It should not be antagonistic towards it. And I think that's very, 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 very harmful. And I think that moving forward, if we don't find a pro-crypto or a pro-Bitcoin administration, this industry in the United States, specifically in states like my state, it's going to be very difficult for people like us to transact. And you see, and this industry has no set of balls on it, to be honest with you. I mean, look at what happened with OKX. OKX yielded to regulatory uncertainty and delisted PulseChain on the 31st, I believe, of this month. There is no sort of balls left in cryptocurrency. And if you're going to literally let antagonism win, then you basically should just bend over backwards and just say, do what you will. I'm going to just sit back and you will make the determination of what happens in this industry and what doesn't. Instead of the thought leaders thereof and the communities that follow them, that make this industry. Well, cryptocurrency more and more is looking more like a banana republic. And I think what Richard and many others are fighting for is to keep cryptocurrency and blockchain from becoming a farce and a banana republic that's antithetical to the cyberpunk principles that were supposed to exist in this industry, but really don't exist at all.
Are the incentives misaligned? Because I mean, you think that everyone went into this, they're either trying to make money or freedom or one way or another, but can't those two things exist together? Can't, we all get rich and also have this privacy and freedom and ability to associate and all that stuff? And where's everyone? I always say, where's Peter Thiel? Peter is one of my heroes, love his ideas, love his work. Should we just not be waiting on the billionaires to step up and be like, you know what? You have these rights. We're going to go fight the government. We're going to protect them. What is it that we need to happen for this stuff to turn around, instead of just, I feel like we're like headed towards the bottom of like rights and our freedoms and stuff right now too.
No, I agree. I think the major issue here is that cryptocurrency is no longer. I think that you see this in every community. You don't see this in just HEX and PulseChain. You see this in legitimately every community. I experienced this in two communities. I'm not naming their names, and it was not HEX and PulseChain. Two communities in the past where I sold and I took profits and I was demonized for it in two communities. And one of that community still follows me every now and then. The problem is that in cryptocurrency, because it's a financial based game, people demonize you for taking profits because you were able to take profits before them. So there is this game where And obviously in cryptocurrency, in any financial instrument, in any financial asset class, in order for someone to win, another person has to lose. That's a fact. However, when it comes to freedom and it comes to a vertical mobility-based society economically, I refuse to believe that cryptocurrency and the ability to become financially free, the word freedom is in financially, in the phrase financially free. So the idea that financial freedom is not synonymous with the cyberpunk movement is bullshit, because how many people have been able to escape the clutches of basically indentured servitude in the labor force these days because of skyrocketing inflation, because of the collapse of the purchasing power of the U.S. dollar. I mean, right now, for a perfect example, a house is now in the United States, the median is about 500,000. 25 years ago, it was like 250 to 270,000. That's a double in 25 years, and the average wage and the median income has only gone up from like 38,000 to 51,000. So about a 17% increase. My point being here is that many people in cryptocurrency demonize others for taking profits. I think that's a major problem in this space. There are those that are going to win and there are those who are going to lose. But there is this ethos that needs to be conveyed that many people can win at the same time during a bull market. Many people can win going into projects that they believe in, and if that project has staying power. It doesn't mean that cryptocurrency in itself should be demonized for the aspect of people making money. I'll be honest with you. If this was only a tech-based industry and there was no ability for monetary acceleration for people, 90% of the people would not be in this space. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, anybody who says they're only in it for the tech is a bullshit artist, to be completely honest with you, because I hate when people say that, because it's literally like a politician virtue signaling. You are not just in this for the tech. You are in this to make money, and don't lie to people for it. No one cares about your virtue signaling, because when you virtue signal, people tend to follow you if they venerate you, and then they say the same thing where they're not here for profits. When we all know that the majority of people here are in here for profits, and the unfortunate thing is that people look at it with a derogatory perspective, and I don't think that's correct. And I also think that people need to learn how to be able to be able to. The thought leaders in this space are very divided through tribalism. It's very evident. The tribalism in communities is just as bad at the top-down perspective. You have many community leaders that do not want to band together and represent this industry because, oh, my coin is better than yours, or my community is better than yours, and like, you're divided, we fall, guys. I mean, and this is something that's not gonna change, unfortunately. But this is the issue we face: is tribalism leads to divide. Tribalism leads to a lack of resolve and a unified front, and also there's a demonization in every community that I've seen of taking profits.
Yeah, I think the money part and the tech part and just the ideal part, I hope, and I think what we've seen in the last few years too, since Bitcoins came out, all that stuff, eventually, and it seems to keep rolling, like this snowball that keeps rolling, getting bigger and bigger, of people who can align their incentives. They can like be in it for the tech and the money and the ideals and the freedom, all that stuff together. And then, but then, you get the different cycles, you get the dim fills with the bear market and stuff. And then everyone's like, oh, it's actually, now that the money's not here, I'm out. I need, and some people need to take a break for whatever reason too. But in general, I hope we can keep making that a multiplier. I hope that the money portion and the ideal portion and the, the freedom portion, the whole thing around it, the tech portion, it can multiply each other instead of being this like, okay, if one's not there, everyone leaves, or one corrupts the other. I'm hoping we can keep that going, because I think it's worked well in the past. It's not perfect, but I think it's helped us get from a small niche crypto thing that's not going anywhere and it doesn't do anything and nobody's investing in it into this multi-trillion-dollar marketplace in the future. So
incentive structures are what bring people into an industry. You're not going to tell people to come in here through some libertarian virtue and say, hey, participate in cryptocurrency. There's no ability for a monetary advancement in your own life, but come into this and participate in it. that's not a very valuable prospect to onboard people. The valuable prospect is the possibility that this market is going to outcompete every single market in legacy finance in many cases. Now, of course, 90% of crypto, 95, I dare say, is dog shit, and many of it will not do well. That's a fact. But for the projects that do, and I don't have a crystal ball here, so I'm not saying what projects or what not. But the projects that do succeed bring fantastic gains to people, life-changing gains off of rather humble amounts of investment, a humble amount investment. Whereas in the stocks, where a humble investment really, really does not give you more times than not a life-changing amount of money, whatever that number may be for that person.
Maybe that's the crossover too. You just got me thinking. The not just crypto is not just to make you money, but it can save your money. Maybe that's where the ideal crossover with the capitalist part of it. Like it's the better sort of money, right? It's the freedom to transact. It grows better. It doesn't get deflated or inflated away. All that stuff. Maybe that's the crossover that a lot of people are attracted to and keeps them in and keeps their incentives aligned. I'd like to think so.
Agreed.
Cool.
I think incentive structure is very important here, and I think that should not be changed. I mean, for example, like if you look at Hex's paradigm here, the whole notion of it is to pay you, your future self, to benefit you monetarily in the future. Like that is the incentive structure for Hex right now. The incentive structure for most proof of stake blockchains is you stake your coins and you get back a certain amount in APY. Like there is an incentive structure there. The incentive structure is speculating that these prices will go up during a bull market. So when I look at it's not a one or the other mind state. Like if this market is purist in a lot of ways because it is capitalistic in nature. That's where the value proposition comes in, that it is capitalistic in nature, that there's not this overextension of regulation, that there's not this overarching government entity that's watching over this, because that's where the gains are made right now. In 20, 30 years, I'm not very optimistic about gains being made in this space. I don't even see the gains that we made 10 years ago. I wasn't even in this 10 years ago for this space. Like you don't see the same gains most of the time in this space that I even saw in 2017, where so many projects did like, oh my God, I can name so many that did like 100x. Now it's like the last bull market I can think of maybe like 30, 40. So, it's a very different ballgame when you start seeing the maturing of an industry.
Well, speaking of gains or losses, what have you seen in this community as far as that gives you hope or gives you or is taking you aback lately? I know you talked about it a little bit on Twitter, and like I said, I've muted so much going on Twitter. It's been delightful. I got to say, I don't see a lot of stuff, and I'm glad I don't. I really don't want it. I've heard all the arguments. I'm good on facts and objective thinking and stuff like that. However, you've seen a different side of Twitter. What's interesting to talk about?
I think it's a shit show, to be honest with you. And I don't like to hold things back because I think that it's very important to talk about these things. I commend you for muting. I mute a lot of people too. Unfortunately, I still see a lot. Here's the problem I see in PulseChain and Hex right now. And this is, and I don't want to break Hexagon law where I say something and I get ostracized, but it has to be said. Ever since Richard Hart started walking away, all of the principles that I saw that I was demonized for in the beginning, for being a third-party promoter, being someone who was focused on PulseChain's layer 1 protocols that launch on it rather than Hex. Well, now everyone's doing it, and I hate to agree with him, but Eric Wall basically posted it under one of my tweets that he basically said like the Hex community went from in 3 weeks from the importance of delaying gratification to basically quote unquote. Now I don't agree with this part, but scamming each other through degen plays and through degen plays. Now here's the thing about this. is that there's a lot of growing pains when you go from a one token community to a layer one community. That's a fact. Like, it is not just about Hex anymore. It's just not. And you have now PulseChain evolving into exactly what it should be evolving into, which is a layer one community that accepts new projects that are legitimate, that have transparency. The issue is there's going to be many projects that launch on PulseChain, just like every other chain, just like Binance, just like Phantom, just like Ethereum, just like any other layer one you can think of, that are going to suck, and they're not going to do anything. But there are projects out there that will bring sub communities that will grow this chain. So here's exactly what's happening. There's this maxi mentality that's very antagonistic, and you stand out as one of the only maxis that I know in this community that's able to onboard both maxis and non-maxis, because you're not confrontational. And I think that's very valuable, because maxis in a community create and solidify the foundational principles of what make that community survive in the first place. So they are needed. They should not go away, because if they go away, then the foundation of that community breaks down. You also need degens, and you also need non-maxis that are very much open to different projects, different communities, to come into this community and to bring more people on board. So here's the problem that I'm seeing, to get to your question, is you have maxis fighting with non-maxis. You have sub-communities fighting with sub-communities. You have maxis conveying that they're maxis, and then people do a little bit of research and they end up being non-maxis that are degenerating into meme coins and yelling at people that are not maxis, but they're not maxis either. So they're being hypocrites. I'm not naming any names here, but there are many people right now in the PulseChain community that venerated the idea of wretched hard maximalism, but then get mad at those that degen, and then they're called degenning themselves and highlighting it, and then demonizing others for doing the same thing as them. So you have maxis that are mad at HEX PulseChain and PulseX, that are mad at people for not allocating funds to HEX PulseChain and PulseX. Then you have degens that are trying to say, no, what we're doing is, or what we're hoping is we're going into these plays, we're burning PulseX, and we're also facilitating the utilization of PulseChain through these plays and onboarding people through subcommunities. Then the maxi mentality is no, you don't have to do that. The only way PulseChain thrives and survives is through staying in PulseChain, PulseX, and HEX, which, if you know I'm saying rhetorically, if you know anything about PulseX, well, the way that it burns so much is that more people use the chain. So it's advantageous for PulseX to begin with. There are also people that are complaining about new dexes that are coming out, but people don't realize that there are over 200 dexes on Ethereum. It's not a one-size-fits-all model. So here's the issue here. You have different ideological fronts from the maxi side and the degen side fighting against each other, and also fighting within each other. So like you have degens fighting with other sub-communities over nonsense. You have PulseChain, HEX, and PulseX people, just those three, that are fighting amongst themselves over, oh, the OGs are going away. Oh, why are they not streaming anymore? Oh, why is what happened with all these old OGs that are now, degenerating into different plays? Oh, some of these maxis are now trying to fudge you out of your bag so that they can buy lower. It's like, the problem is that this community has, and this is a major issue with a lot of communities. This is not just HEX, but since we're talking about HEX and PulseChain, the main issue here is that this community has been so overly reliant on Richard for guidance that now there is no guidance, because now it's like, holy shit, we've been a one token community for 3 years where Richard was streaming and tweeting every damn day. Then PulseChain launches, and then the entire ideology changes in 2 months' time. You don't change things that quickly, because if you do, change is terrifying to the human animal. It's in the 48 Laws of Power. It's one of my favorite books. And what happens is change leads to excessive change, leads to conflict and fear. You're seeing that in PulseChain now. And then you pack on the SEC, that makes it even worse. So the over-reliance on Richard's philosophies, or actually Richard himself, not his philosophies, because we've seen that Richard's philosophies right now have kind of gone out the window for some part. But Richard has been so this community has been very reliant on his teachings and principles, and that's not a bad thing because it's made a gigantic and strong community. And I don't think those philosophies should go away at all. But what I think what's happening here is that there's an inability to solidify both the old order and the new, and then you bring in fear, uncertainty, and doubt, and the result is the prices that we see today and the infighting over bullshit.
Is there a way to? I mean, we could go through a list of all I guess the cohesiveness that came from him even being away as far as community projects. A lot of people still building, a lot of people still just coming together to make sure these things launch, and they got a ton of projects coming up. So there's been some. We go through a list of all the nice good things and the betterment we've seen over the last year. Whether PulseChain is Richard's around or PulseChain's been thriving or not, but I'm just trying to think of if we look at the things that have happened as far as the infighting or drama or whatever too. Are people just looking for? Are they just bored right now? It's the bear market. Do they need Richard to say something in order to move on? Like, is there a transition happening from not really centralization, but like this like holding your breath, waiting on what the leader does instead of like, hey, everything's here. You don't need someone to tell you what to do. Like, how do you think the path forward? What does that look like?
So I think one of the major factors here is you're right. It's a bear market. Like, literally, like when you go in any community, like I've been in other communities, it's bad. It's bad. Like, all coins right now are not performing well. I've seen it in many different communities. Phantom specifically over the last couple of months because of multi-chain. And it's been, unfortunately, a very negative environment in Phantom. It's been a very negative environment in Ethereum. It's been a very negative environment in Binance and BNB. It's been, it used to be a negative environment in XRP. It kind of is still right now because the whole pump is retracing, but there's a little bit more optimism right now. But the thing is with HEX and PulseChain is that HEX and PulseChain, the arguments tend to be always public. It's never behind closed doors in Telegram or Discord. These arguments are always out in the open for outsiders to see. And that's a major issue because if I'm a new community member and I see this infighting over nonsense, I'd be less inclined to stay in a community that's very adversarial towards itself. And I think that that's a byproduct of the bear market. I do. I think bear markets lead to negative emotions, and that's a ubiquity in this entire space. The path forward right now, I think that the best question is that the issue is there's so much uncertainty right now that the way forward right now is as uncertain as the questions thereof. Is Richard coming back? Is Richard going to be public again? Is Richard the one actually tweeting? Is this community going to be able to evolve and become basically its own DAO without a leader? These are questions that can only be solved with time. But what I can say is, from an optimistic standpoint, is that there are very few communities out there, if any, where you get this amount of engagement on social media. Like, I made a tweet yesterday about setting precedents based on the tweets he made, based off of based on legalities or litigation, and it's got 700 likes and 11,000 impressions. You don't get those types of numbers on social media unless you have generally 50K or above in followers, or if you're in a very large topic or category that your profile's focused on, whether that be memes or politics. You don't see that very often in cryptocurrency. Even the individuals with millions of followers or 500,000 followers, they don't get that type of impressions and engagement. So this community is still very, 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 very strong. There's no question about that. I don't think that's the issue. I don't think the stickiness of the community is the issue. I think what the issue is moving forward on the basis of, are we going to be more of a leaderless Bitcoin type community now where the figurehead is just like a figurehead, or is Richard going to return? And that's a question that I don't know. I can't answer.
I was just scrolling through to looking up a little bit on Twitter. I never actually searched for shitcoin or PulseChain dead or anything before. I mean, so the point in even doing this too is, looking at some of the stuff that people may see when they look for the hashtags, as well as you were talking about.
Yeah,
our engagement's crazy. Our engagement is insane as far as crypto goes. For being like we punch through the noise literally. We may punch with noise as well sometimes, but we literally punch above our weight class in so many different ways compared to some of the huge top 10, top 20 coins. However, it just looking at some of these tweets, and some of them are just funny. But as a new person, if I were looking at these, I don't know how I'd feel actually, because being me, looking at them, I just kind of laugh. I'm like, oh yeah, they're just basically trolling or bantering back and forth, or emotions are on their sleeve or whatever. Somebody actually made a Gary Gensler one, who's it sounds like a lot of their content is just hashtag dead, hashtag all that stuff too. But I guess with the community being able to amplify the different messages so much, if people see the infighting, do you think they look at it more as this community is just rowdy, like there's a lot of family fighting going on, that sort of thing? Or do you think they look at it as, wow, if they're going to make an investment or not, whether if they're going to believe what they see on the news or whatever? I used to look for HEX or PulseChain news. I'll do that in a moment. But how do you think it affects people who are on the fence coming into this community? I guess, is there something good they can see from this? Like, is it a vibrancy even?
That's a good question. Because I have had many people, specifically builders, come to me via DMs that say, Corey, I really want to build on this chain. It's got a lot of amazing features. The community itself is strong, but the infighting leads me to believe that I won't be supported. Or if I try to contact people that are your size and profile count, like 10 to 15K followers, they get ghosted. And this has happened more than once to me. I'd say about 15 to 20 people have messaged me directly. And I really don't know what to say, because from an outside investment looking in, there's a difference between being boisterous and rambunctious, like we were at the top, where people were celebratory, where there was meetups left and right with optimism, where you guys were filling up meetups, to now where it's subtle attacks, sub-communities attacking sub-communities. I think the optimism, though, in this community is found right now in specific sub-communities. I find them in a few communities. I'm not going to name them, because I know that you focus mostly on HEX PulseChain and PulseX, but there are a decent amount of sub-communities in PulseChain right now that are very optimistic, that are very welcoming, that are very friendly, that are very open to new communities. And they're mostly third-party projects. So if they were introduced to that, then it's very enticing. If there's a decent sized account that sees the engagement that a lot of Twitter handles get with the HEX and PulseChain community, that's also very enticing for staying power. These are all optimistic things, and you can say, oh, they're farming engagement, but if they stay here and they're farming positive engagement, I don't see that as a negative. It's an advantageous business transaction between the community and the engager. So I think from an optimistic standpoint, an outsider looking in sees the sub communities and they find value in that. They see the charts on some third party projects that are doing pretty well, to say the least, and look at that. When you go on BNB, there are many people on BNB that don't invest in BNB, specifically to hold BNB. They do it because they want to degen into third-party projects that they can speculate on, that are generally high risk, of course. And that's what right now PulseChain is becoming. And many people say that's a bad thing. I don't think it's a bad thing at all, because look how many people use BNB, be it the Binance chain. So I think, optimistically speaking, there's a lot of good to be had right now. But negatively speaking, with the SEC, with Richard's absence, and a lot of infighting, that could put off some people as well. I think if this SEC issue wasn't happening, there would be a lot more. It would be a lot more sense of calm, but obviously that's not the case right now, unfortunately.
Yeah, I mean, just looking through the news too, it almost looks like a coordinated attack on.
Yes, it does.
It's crazy. I'm scrolling through. I'm like, why are all these articles like, you see stuff like this, and
it's very coordinated.
And there's a few in between that are like, oh, this is like an actually interesting article about this, not just, calling the end of the road for this stuff. However, I go and type in Binance, and it's obviously it's not like super harsh stuff on this, but it's like, hey, the end crypto partnership, all this stuff too. So it's almost feel like if I type in anything crypto right now, it is going to be the color of the candles.
Mm-hmm. Yep, of course.
So, yep. but like when the people, I guess the only unfortunate part about it is onboarding people who, even if they see the movie, they're compelled. If they're able to, I think many will be able to look past, like, oh, this guy's very interesting. Maybe they'll go watch a bunch of his videos and buy in. Won't be a problem. But a lot of people too, unfortunately, whether they see Richard's documentary, they hear about Binance for the first time, they hear about Coinbase for the first time, or whatever it is, they're going to see SEC, ends partnership, all this stuff. And so just in crypto in general, it almost feels like, if fast forward a year from now, 2 years from now, whenever we're at middle of the bull run, if that happens, have no idea. And then we look at the news and we type in these names, how much of it will be like, everything's great, things are good. Oh, here's a little thing here. But what you think it'll flip once we see the candles turn colors?
I think the best sentiment is green candles. I think that's how it's always been. I think that even with the SEC, people are going to tend to not give a shit about it if green candles return. But I think that will lead to a sentiment change for a time. I agree. But do I believe that the SEC may have a crutch on overall price performance if this is not resolved by the next bull run? I do. But do I think green candles solves all issues in a community? Most of the time, yes, I do.
You heard it here. All we need is green candles, and
that's always the solver.
Regime change over at the departments who prefer people not have the freedom to transact. That would probably be helpful as well.
Yep.
Boy, this is I thought 2023 would not be that exciting, but it's been exciting more than one way. When do you think we'll know more about SEC, RH? And somebody tweeted today about there was like a court docket deal that's I don't know much about it, but it seemed like some stuff was moving. Maybe there's maybe there's some time where a response is needed, or things are going to be set up for one way or another. When do you think we're going to hear more? And do you think we'll ever see RH live stream this year?
I do not think we're going to see Richard live stream this year at all. I don't. Unfortunately.
Why is that? Like why? If he tweets, what's the difference in live streaming and tweeting? I think maybe some people are trying to figure that out too. Like if he can tweet about all this stuff, why can't he live stream?
Because this goes back again to me being conspiratorial that this may not be Richard tweeting. Whereas on a live stream, Richard is face-to-face, being formal, and actually talking about his products in depth. Whereas on Twitter, you're not really seeing anymore advantageous prospects not advantageous. You're not really seeing tweets specifically geared towards HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX. It's more along the lines of like freedom of speech, litigation. And I think the difference here is that a live stream is very formal, and it's a necessity to show a person's face, whereas a tweet, anybody can be behind the keyboard. So that's why I'm not saying I think that PulseChain, PulseX, and HEX can perform in a bull market. Again, not financial advice by any means, but I do believe, unfortunately, the SEC case does put a crutch on on possible totality of price performance. But do I believe Richard will live stream again this year? No. Maybe sometime next year. I would hope, at least.
I was just going to look at to the Coinbase chart, because when they got sued, what was it? Did they rally after that happened?
What?
Let me see. Coinbase sued SEC date. Just curious. So June 6th. June 6th. Look at that. I mean, that could have just been, the correlation with the markets going up in general, but right. SEC sued Coinbase on June 6th, and afterwards we had that. So, and also, shout out to Tubby1 in the chat. Talked about XRP did a 5 to 6x in 2021 bull run while in the throes of the SEC case. Not impossible for price of other things to have gone up, even battling the SEC, and they're trying to attack your crypto.
Mm-hmm. No, it's unfortunate. It is. So it's a hard pill to swallow right now. That we should have seen this coming in 2022, not just HEX and PulseChain, but in the totality of this market, where after BlockFi, Celsius, Voyager, FTX all fell, there was obviously going to be a justification for the SEC to come in. And this is why this year has been so tough, because the regulation on this industry, those events were a justification for the SEC to come into this space wholeheartedly.
Has this price, let me ask you about HEX for a moment.
Sure.
Has this price, has these cheap T-shares tempted you at all to make your first HEX stake, Corey Costa?
No.
You have a very interesting perspective on that one.
No.
You're definitely contrarian on that one, Corey.
I am. I always will be. I know I'm a dick. What can I say?
No, I mean you're making a choice, right? Like everyone chooses. You stake to have less inflation, and you keep it liquid to have more flexibility. It's just a trade-off.
Exactly. That's the whole thing. Flexibility is very important, especially in these uncertain times. So that's where basically I stand. I want to be able to. I want to be able to have full control in an environment right now, and not just in HEX, but in crypto anyway. I don't, and I've said this, I don't stake crypto. I just don't. I had an experience doing that. I staked the product for a year and a half. About a year and a half. I staked it. I staked it down at 10 cents. About that, yeah. And the all-time high for that token or coin was around 330. I unstaked it around the all-time high, and then I sold it at $1.87 or $1. No, not $1.87. About $1.80 or $1.70. I don't remember. And as a result of staking and having a lockup period or an unlocking period, I was not able to sell at its all-time high, unfortunately. So I've had a very bad taste with staking. So that's why I stay away from staking.
Yeah, it's Toby had another good point here, which they talk about a little bit. I heard this on Twitter, maybe on the documentary, one of those. But a lot of points to how stakers and liquid holders. It takes both sides, and I think
we need them just as they need us. Exactly. There's an inherent value. I mean, that's why whenever I hold a token or a coin, if they have a staking feature, I don't do it. I just don't, because it's just the lockup periods for me. They're just not. They don't leave me the control I'd like.
When you look at this chart, do you see opportunity, or do you see disaster? What's your reaction from looking at the 6-month HEX chart?
I see both. I see disaster and opportunity. Particularly,
elaborate on that.
To me personally, I've stayed neutral on the PHEX and EHEX side because I think there's inherent value to both of them in the end. But I've been more along the lines of going the PHEX route now. And the reason why is because PHEX is a whole new chart. There's a whole new chain. EHEX right now it's clear based off of what we've seen that PHEX, excuse me, is the higher valued hex right now. Do I believe that EHEX should go into the dust? No. Do I believe that the token that made this community great should be left to go into oblivion? No. That's why I think EHEX holders, I think that EHEX has that value because it has that nostalgia foundation factor. But when I look at HEX, PHEX, PulseChain, and PulseX, I look at it as opportunity, but I can't deny that at the same time it does look like disaster as well, especially from an outsider coming in. At least optimistically speaking, somebody for the first time in the last 3 months messaged me and said, "Hey, Core, I'm telling my coworkers how to buy PulseX and PulseChain. Do you have a video on how to do it?" I'm like, "Yeah." Like that's a refreshing thing to hear, though. So, at least that's a sign of good good sign. Do I think parity will happen? I don't know. Only time will tell. I know a lot of people have been on that side of the fence that parity between PHEX and EHEX will happen. I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. As long as the big four work out, I'm happy for everyone. I just hope it works out for everyone. I also think one of the big issues here, and CoinFessions made a very, very good post about this, that I can relate it to the HEX and PulseChain community and the prices thereof, actually. So CoinFessions made this. Where's the XRP? Where the hell is it? Where is it? Okay. I've held XRP for 4 years. I thought it would be above $3 after getting clarity in the lawsuit. I put all my net worth in it now. Now it's only hovering around 60 cents. Every influencer in XRP always delays the date when XRP is going to moon. It never does. Probably never will, losing hope. This is the problem with influencers in also this community that do the same damn thing. And there's always this, prior to HEX and PulseChain launching, prior to PulseChain and PulseX launching, there was this stupid assumption that in 100 or 150 days, whatever it was, that PulseChain and PulseX were going to 100x. You set up expectation for that, and you set up expectation that PulseX is going to 10,000x from SAC rate. And you create this expectation among your followers. And then when it doesn't happen, it creates a vindictiveness towards the community and towards the products themselves because of expectation. That's why it's so important, like, making price predictions like that is not a net beneficial, because one, if it doesn't work out, the streamer's credibility dies out. And two, it creates an expectation of the collective on price predictions that may not happen. And as a result of that, well, you have communities, members that come in, expect that. And then when it doesn't happen, people tend to lose hope a lot quicker because they were expecting something that didn't happen thereof. So
I in general avoid predictions and a lot of other things too. It's just, there's no benefit. I always remember that's one of the things, one of the, I guess, mental models that I got from Richard that have always stuck with me. I've used in so many different places. People ask, "Oh, where'd the ETH go, Richard? Where'd who's OA? Who this and that? All these different questions. Like, there's no benefit to you. There's no benefit in you knowing. There's no benefit in that happening. So even in this case, it's like predictions. It's like there's no benefit in me giving predictions because I'm probably going to be wrong, like everyone else. And yeah, whether there's accountability for that or not, right. Just to me, it just takes away from a lot of the values I have, at least. So I avoid doing it for that reason.
That's why I have a lot of respect for you in a lot of ways, because one, you don't give people bullshit price predictions. That's the first thing. Second of all, out of all of the quote unquote categorization of maximalists per se, I find you to be the most accepting of those. It's almost like a Christian talking to an atheist and talking to them about their beliefs on why Christianity makes them happy. And as a result, the atheist converts, not because they were forced to. Whereas there are many who act like radicals, and then as a result, the atheist does not want to convert to Christianity because you're hitting them with excess. It's like a used car salesman. Do you ever want to buy a used car from a car salesman that is so excessive and so obnoxiously imprudent? No, I don't ever want to buy a car from that. I would say screw off to them. That's where your ideology of being a maximalist and being a purist in that respect doesn't intervene with those that come into this space that have no desire to be one, but in turn, they still benefit this ecosystem by being involved in third-party projects that in turn, indirectly or directly, I dare say, benefit our ecosystem, PulseChain, PulseX specifically. So I think what you do. What?
I said that's a good way to put it. I like the analogy.
No, because I think that's why your channel is growing so fast, as opposed to other channels that are lower in subscriber count to you, because a lot of streamers that I've seen that are low in your subscriber count, in the 4K, 5K, 3K range, they generally feed off of controversy. Not all, but some feed off of controversy, and some utilize price predictions to get their clicks up. Now, I can guarantee you, if I started tomorrow and started posting pictures of Richard Hart saying Hex and PulseChain and PulseX are going to guarantee 10,000x in the bull market, who agrees? I'd get 10,000x the likes, or 10x the likes that I do now. But I'm not going to do that, because I don't think that's going to happen, first of all. And second of all, I don't think it's a valuable metric to onboard people. And the only people you're going to onboard is people who have expectations for something, and then when it doesn't happen, they're going to hate this ecosystem nonetheless. It doesn't work. It does not work in the long run. Yeah. How many streamers have you guys watched before introduced to Hex? Like, I remember many of them that I've watched in 2017 that said to me that Ethos, Substratum, QuantStamp were all going to be, they're going to 10,000 to 50,000x, and it never happened. And those coins are nowhere to be found anymore. And then they lost their legitimacy, and they were one-cycle streamers.
Yeah, it's about choosing long-term over short-term for me. It goes back to delayed gratification. It does.
Exactly. That's why it's like you have that. That's why I've always said a lot when people ask me, like, if there's one maximalist YouTube channel that you like a lot, who is it? And I'd say RHMax, because there's no conflict of interest when you speak. I don't see YouTube videos that you make that are constantly focused on Hex hitting $1 million, which I think is outlandish, or Hex hitting $10 to $20. Like, it's informational, it's educational, and it's not based off of conjecture that entices people to buy on the basis of excessive speculation. It's more informational. And will that get the same amount of clicks as someone who says every stream 10,000x this, 10,000x that? Probably not. But will you have staying power when they don't? Probably. Just like me.
That's what I'm going for. That's what I'm hoping. Yeah. Appreciate that, man. Literally the description of the channel says become the best version of yourself in DeFi and crypto.
My point.
Exactly. That's all I'm trying to do. I'm telling you what I like, what I hear other people talk about, good ideas. You decide whether you like them or not. You decide whether you like the products. I'm here just to tell you about my passion and my belief in these things.
My point, exactly.
Whatever you do, that's why I don't even call myself an influencer. I call myself like a creator, right? Like I like to create content. Whether I influence you or not, it's a different thing. But I like to create things.
I hate that word so much. Influencer is such a no. I hate that word. But
yeah, it's such a, I don't know. I feel like there's a higher calling than influencing people. I feel like influence can be a good thing, and it can be certainly a tool in your arsenal. But I don't know, being an influencer, I feel like maybe you may be shortchanging yourself too. I think people are more than just like influencing others. I mean, you can inform. Anyways, one more thing before we get chat here.
Go ahead.
Thought this was interesting, and I'll kind of tie it into Richard, tied into crypto in general. When you see this, I grew up poor, I lived in a warehouse, worked hard, eventually raised money for charity, self-help stuff, don't drink, don't gamble, don't trade, raising money, installing bidets, all this stuff. What do you think Richard's impact will be in crypto? Like what do you think when the dust settles, maybe it's next year, maybe it's 5 years, maybe it's 10 years from now, eventually the community is doing what the community is doing one way or another. What do you think his impact will be? And do you think he's going to achieve the glory? That's what he said. He wants glory, right? He wants to be liked. He wants to make a difference. He wants to be a force for good in the world. From just a few of the things he's talked about here, do you think the message will get through? And what will happen to crypto?
That's a good question.
Big question to end on, I know.
No. That's a good question. Watching Richard's old streams prior to Bitcoin, prior to HEX, they were very purist. They were very focused on self-help. They were very focused on teaching the middle class how, instead exchanging time for money, how to make time create money for you. I think that there's value proposition in teaching people how to not be an alcoholic, how to not be a drug addict, how to not to be a gambler. I think there's value in that. Do I think that he's human as well? Yes, I know that he used to show referral links. I know that he said that he's drank before, even after saying those things. I'm not going to crucify someone for not being a saint in a decadent civilization. I'm not going to. That's not my place to. I think that when you create streams and you're a Bitcoin maximalist and you're a master, and this is going to sound funny, you're a master debater, you're not a master baiter, you're a master debater,
yes,
who has experience in blockchain, who understands technology. I think there's a lot of ways that there is veneration there. Every time I speak to mainstream influencers about Richard Hart, he's very, very intelligent, and he's very, very bright, and he's very, 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 very well adept in the art of dissent and debate. But then what branches off is that people think his intelligence is utilized for malevolent acts. And that's where the problem lies. So here's the thing. Do I think a person who wants to be loved and wants glory is going to stop? No, unless they find content and complacency in what they've achieved already. Now, if I were in Richard's shoes right now, I would be very discontent with the way things are now, because glory is not synonymous with near ubiquitous hatred in this industry outside of your own community. If you want glory and you wanted respect and you want dignity outside of the HEX community and even inside the HEX community, because I see a lot of people in the HEX community now are becoming very antagonistic towards Richard, you really have to become a white knight in shining armor, and be able to stand against adversaries on all fronts, no matter what side of the podium you're on, no matter if it's in front and back, the left, the right, diagonal, doesn't matter. So if he's able to, and here's the thing, I don't know if it would be better to settle or to fight the SEC. Most business moguls, they tend to settle to move on. The problem is that if Richard settles, it admits to somewhat of wrongdoing. And what about if settling deems him unable to interact with his audience, his audience of PulseChain and HEX? What if that's the settlement deal? No one's said that. Whereas if he fights, it's a drawn-out case. There's no question it's a drawn-out case. This is going to take a while, like a long fucking time. I don't know how long, but most likely a long time. But if he's able to beat the SEC, and he's able to prove points based off historical precedent for privacy, for autonomy, for the right to transact, you're really embodying the cypherpunk principles while simultaneously conveying the importance of monetary incentivization in this market. So my hope is that this storyline continues with Richard ending up winning this case. And as a result of that, HEX, PulseChain, and PulseX will increase in value, I hope, which will in turn bring a lot of the people in the community that are discontent back to his side. But I really, really, really hope that this humility, humble personality was not just a 180 bullshit to appease to the SEC. I hope that if he wins, he does not become the same arrogant prick he was the last year, because I know people like me and many others could not stand that. And I think that you don't, yes, the analytics went higher from the way that he was acting.
It worked, but yeah, there was a cost.
Yeah, my point exactly. And the cost, in my opinion, outweighed the benefits. And I really hope that if you're going to practice what you preach, that you say that you died and that you did that a humble leader stays humble even in adoration if he wins the case. If he becomes arrogant again, Lord help us all. But if he stays humble, that would be an incredible proof of virtue.
That would be funny if he won the case, flying colors, everything's good. The SEC, totally gets shuffled around and restaffed and all that. They're like, yeah, crypto's good, and then all we, Hex price goes to the moon, everything goes to the moon. Community's super happy, and then the first thing he does is be like, we see shopping bags or something. That would be,
yeah, God,
that would be. I think at that point, I'm not sure how much we'd care, but right now, I think we care a lot more for sure.
No, I wouldn't care as much if I was winning alongside of him. But God, it was even then when we were all excited for PulseChain, it was so god awful. It was
maybe at that point. Maybe he'll take us all shopping. We'll get a picture of all of us walking out.
That's fine. That's fine. I don't even like designer clothes, but you want to buy me a Gucci shirt that I won't be able to fit in? Go ahead.
Did somebody say Burbear? Did somebody in the chat say Burbear? Burbear's here. Boom. Burberry Bear. Pick this up in the bear market. I know that's sacrilegious.
What is that? Oh wow! I have such bad vision, bro. I have to look at my laptop, which is like 6 feet away.
Burbear.
The spread. But
Burberry Bear.
That's cool. I have a little bear as well. I'm too lazy to get up and go get it. But
it matches my shirt. I got a shirt recently too. I did for the Highest of Stakes interview, and cool. Burberry Bear. Yeah, so you've already forgotten what all the luxury stuff looks like. You're like, I don't want it. I don't want that anymore. Out of my face.
I have Le Mans Black coming on, I think, next week.
Sweet.
29th. I have Gregory Manarino coming on next week as well. So I got some names coming on. I want to talk to Lamont about something that a lot of people aren't talking about, which is educational pedagogy and why the failures of education have kind of seeped into cryptocurrency. That's something I want to talk to him about as someone who went to school to be a history teacher too. So fun.
That's gonna be interesting. Yeah, no, dude, it's well. Speaking of just big names, before we get out of here, do you think BitBoy, Ivan on Tech, all the Crypto Man ran, all Richard's buddies, right? Like they all said good things about him. They've hung out with him before. A lot of stuff about the community as well. Can you see them all teaming up and like we got this panel of alpha males, just and maybe females too, if there's any that want to join. They just come up and we win through that. Like we just have so much power through all the top crypto names. Can you see that happening?
Yes. I think that on a positive note, a lot of the people that many people in this community perceived as antagonistic towards Richard are not. BitBoy being one of them. I think that when the dust settles, and if it is an optimistic end, that you'll start seeing Richard on not old school. You'll see Richard on channels you've seen him on before. I don't know any names particularly, but once that clears, Richard will probably be on channels again. Because it's safe then. It's safe. It's like, all right, there's nothing else to prove. He proved the biggest entity that could be deemed that this was a scam, wrong. But if he doesn't and he settles, there's positives, there's pros and cons for both settling and fighting. If he settles, I think that, time heals all wounds and he will go on new channels and old channels as well. But there's a lot of overwhelming support for Richard that a lot of people thought wasn't going to happen, but actually did. So,
worst case, we got he's coming on Good Morning America with everyone, telling about how. Whoops, sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Telling about how he he settled, but at no fault. There is a no fault settlement type of thing. I think Bittrex recently did that, where they admitted no fault, but they settled, which court of public opinion, blah 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 too. But it's still there is that kind of thing. Which
there is.
we'll see going forward. Corey, one of the hottest channels in people watching. When we see big guests coming on, it's usually on Corey's channel. Like, how are you going to slow down? You're going to have. First of all, do you find out who never mind, I was going to ask about Ryder Stone question, but I'm probably going to try not to get any strikes on the channel. Did you find out who had the biggest impact on JFK? How do I ask that question?
Watch my interview with him. Oh God. Probably Lyndon Johnson. I don't know. You never know.
Let's go with that one. That sounds like a politically correct answer.
Yeah. No, it's definitely interesting. You asked me about. Did you ask me because you broke out for a second? You said something about new names coming on.
Yeah, well, I was saying you interview all of the names that are inside and outside of crypto, and how do you? Or I know you got some more people coming up. You just did the Charles one, which I think you were kind of highlighting beforehand as well.
Yes.
Yeah. Do you think the rest of the year? What are you looking forward to in 2023? Who's on your? If you want to say any names, who's on your wish list for people coming on?
I got Greg Marino coming on next week. I got Lamont Black coming on next week. I have Axis coming on in September. I have been trying to get Rudy Giuliani on. I called his assistant a couple of days ago. So we're trying to get that. But as you guys know in the news, I'm sure I'm the last thing on his list right now. What's going on with Rudy Giuliani? I asked Laura Loomer if she wanted to come back on. She's a very busy woman, so I don't know if that's going to happen. But I really don't know. I just take things as they go. I mean, realistically speaking, right now it's all I can do because, I look at my calendar and, I've interviewed so many people over the last 2 years constantly that, I'm thinking about doing what sometimes you guys do, in regards to, clipping stuff. And just doing that for a little bit and then going back to interviews. I'm not sure yet. But we'll see. I really don't know. We'll see. Well, trying to get to 10K subs. I'm almost there. So
almost there. Steve says, when are you getting Trump on?
Oh, maybe one day. Trust me. I've reached out to Tucker Carlson. I've tried. I'll never get an answer, but I've tried. So, and I'll schedule you to come on my channel next month as well. You know how we do it.
That's how we do it. We do, every other month. We've been doing that for a while, working pretty well. Excited to come on, and everyone. If you're not subscribed or haven't seen all of Corey's interviews, I went through a few interviews, a lot of top people, and a lot of just everyone. I mean, he had Richard's. How can we? Is it Richard's brother or Richard's?
Bro, Shane, my boy Shane.
We'll just call him Shane Schuler instead of Richard Brother. Maybe we'll just say Shane Schuler. He had Shane Schuler on there.
Daddy Schuler, yeah, that dude's awesome. That dude's really awesome. I like him a lot.
So that was a lot of interesting people on Corey's channel, and at Corey Costa Crypto Coins on YouTube. Yes. Twitter, is it Corey Costa 123 321?
Yes, 123. I think
123.
Yeah,
one of those. Just keep typing it in and keep hitting enter, hitting refresh until it works.
Yeah, don't worry. I'm the one with the cringy side picture on Twitter. So
this man called the tank. Well, I think I called the tank top.
He did,
and then he confirmed the tank top on the day.
I did, and now I'm injured. I was using my handy dandy
shake weight
before.
My shotgun. Yeah, I automatically do shake weight when anyone has a therapeutic device in their hand. I just go with shake weight immediately. But yeah, it's usually not that. It's usually a massage gun. All right, man. What do you want to take us out on? What anything else you want to talk about that's upcoming, or otherwise, what are you looking forward to?
Make sure to subscribe to RHMax's YouTube channel. Make sure to continue the good fight, and I'll be in Twitter Spaces, annoying the shit out of everybody like I do best.
Hashtag Twitter Spaces.
Right.
Yep, that is the thing. I do the open mic, which is like the Twitter Spaces, but so it goes back to creating content, right? It's like I know you can screen record Twitter Spaces and stuff too, but I feel
I just found out how to do that.
Yeah, I mean, it's possible to do, but I like how YouTube kind of captures this, and we're able to and clip it out and stuff like that too. And you got video, and there's I don't know, they're both good. I think spaces are good for interacting with the community, where you can really get to I don't know for better or for worse interacting with the community on spaces for sure.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. That's all we got for you today. I'll have coffee on tomorrow, and we will wrap up this week.
Nice.
Who knows? And who knows what we'll talk about? It should be fun stuff. Corey, excellent stream. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for coming on. Always good to see you.
Absolutely. Likewise, man. Let me get my schedule now for next month. Let's do it.
Sounds good. We'll schedule in 45 seconds here. Scivive and 5555. He'd already left. We are out.
Oh, I'm here.